Welcome back to another episode of HealthCap Weekly Wrap.
Can you believe we're already in the thick of summer?
I know, right? And with the temps climbing and folks spending more time outside, it's a good time to hit pause and ask, are we really prepared for what the season can bring?
Yeah, because summer isn't just about sunshine and cookouts. For senior living communities, it's a high-risk time. Heat, hydration, medications, emergencies, you name it.
Exactly. We've got residents with complex medical needs, cognitive changes, medications that interact with sunlight. There's a lot to manage.
That's why this week we're doing a deep dive into 4 critical summer safety topics from PharMerica's Did You Know series. We're talking sunblock, heat illness, photosensitivity, and heat intolerance, all things that can affect residents in ways that aren't always obvious.
And we'll wrap things up with a closer look at HealthCap's brand new Summer Safety webinar series. Honestly, it's packed with tools and CE credits that make it a no-brainer for community leaders.
So let's jump into the first one, sunblock. Sounds basic, but turns out we've all been doing it wrong.
And it's one of the easiest things to overlook.
Right? You hear use sunscreen and it's like, okay, got it. But PharMerica's latest Did You Know sheet had me rethinking everything. Apparently, most of us are way underdoing it.
Yeah, they said we should be using a full ounce. Basically, a shot glass worth every time. That's to get full protection. I mean, when was the last time we actually measured that out?
Exactly. And for a lot of our residents, even small amounts of unprotected sun exposure can cause serious issues, burns, skin breakdown, or even trigger other health problems.
And here's the kicker. Sunscreen needs to be applied 30 minutes before going outside. That's a tough ask in a senior living setting, where things move quickly.
Totally. We're not always planning outings ahead of time. Sometimes it's just a spontaneous walk in the courtyard or sitting outside after lunch. But that means we've got to be more proactive.
Yeah, maybe it becomes part of the morning routine, like brushing teeth or putting on shoes. If you know a resident loves going outside, sunblock needs to be as automatic as grabbing a hat.
And it has to be the right kind too. Broad spectrum, SPF 30 or higher, and water resistant. That part matters, especially for residents who might sweat more or participate in outdoor activities.
And it's not a one and done. Reapplication every 2 hours is the standard, but even more frequently if someone's been sweating or using a damp cloth to cool off.
What really stood out to me was how aging skin plays into all this. It's thinner, more fragile, and just doesn't bounce back like younger skin does. So even a mild sunburn can take days or weeks to heal, and in some cases, lead to infection or pressure injuries.
That's a great point. And some residents might not even feel the burn happening because of neuropathy or cognitive decline. They may not say, hey, I need to go inside.
So it's on us and our staff to watch for those signs and take the lead. I think this is a great area for staff training. Like, let's talk through sun exposure during shift huddles. Who's going outside today? Who needs sunscreen reapplied? Who might need to skip the garden time if they're on meds that increase sensitivity?
And speaking of that, PharMerica even reminds us that sunblock alone isn't enough. Think shade, protective clothing, wide-brimmed hats, sunglasses. It all adds up.
Plus, don't forget about reflection. UV rays bounce off concrete, water, even light-colored patio furniture. So even if a resident is sitting under an umbrella, they're still getting exposed.
Exactly, and it's not just about preventing sunburns. We're talking long-term damage, increased risk of skin cancer, and just overall comfort. No one wants to feel overheated or have irritated skin.
One community I visited last summer had a sun care station by their back patio. It had pump bottles of sunscreen, floppy hats, sunglasses, and a cooler with water bottles. Super simple, but incredibly effective.
I love that. And it sends a message to staff and residents alike. This matters. We're not just reacting, we're planning ahead.
All right, up next, we're going to get into heat-related illnesses and why even short exposure can put your residents at risk.
So, heat-related illnesses. Even a short time outside can be risky for our residents. And this one's a lot more serious than most people realize.
Yeah, PharMerica's Did You Know breaks it down really clearly. And what stood out to me is just how quickly things can go south. Heat exhaustion can turn into heat stroke before you even realize what's happening.
And the tricky part is, the early signs, they don't always scream medical emergency. You see someone who's a little tired, a little flushed, maybe dizzy, and you might chalk it up to, I don't know, skipped lunch or a poor night's sleep.
Exactly. But in this heat, that could be the beginning of heat illness. And older adults just don't regulate temperature the same way. The body's internal cooling system weakens with age, especially if they're dealing with heart disease, diabetes, or are taking certain medications.
Right. Diuretics, beta blockers, antihistamines, they can all mess with the body's ability to stay cool. And that puts our residents at a much higher risk.
You know what hit me? By the time you're seeing obvious signs like confusion, fast heartbeat, maybe even nausea or fainting, you're already in dangerous territory. That's not, maybe we'll cool off later. That's take action now.
Totally. And think about our residents with dementia. They might not say they're feeling hot or dizzy. They might just start pacing or refusing to eat, or suddenly get agitated.
That's why regular wellness checks are so important during heat waves. Pop in, take note of their hydration level, look at what they're wearing. Are they dressed appropriately? Are their rooms too warm? Or if they're in the courtyard, how long have they been out there? Do they have shade? Water? Sometimes it's just a quick visit that turns into an hour without anyone realizing it.
And hydration. Can we just say it? We have to stop assuming a pitcher of water on a bedside table is enough. It's not. We need to be actively encouraging fluids throughout the day.
Exactly. Whether it's a hydration cart with fun drinks, fruit-infused water, electrolyte popsicles, whatever works for your residents, the goal is intake, not just availability.
And we also have to get ahead of the weather. If you know the next few days are going to be in the 90s, adjust the activity calendar. Move outdoor programs indoors. Reschedule events. That's not a last-minute decision. It's part of heat planning.
And think beyond 12 to 5 p.m. We tend to assume it's only dangerous during peak heat, but even the mornings can be rough, especially with high humidity.
One community I worked with started logging heat stress alerts on their shift boards. Anytime the heat index went above a certain point, they'd run through a quick checklist. Hydration, indoor cooling options, med reviews. It was a really smart way to standardize the response.
I love that. Because at the end of the day, this is about staying ahead of the problem. Once a resident has collapsed or is slurring their words, we've already missed some signs.
Right. This isn't about overreacting. It's about planning smarter. Every summer, these risks come back around. But that also means we have a chance to be better prepared each time.
And we're not done yet. Coming up next, we're going to talk about a summer risk that's often hiding in plain sight: photosensitivity. And trust us, this one has everything to do with your med pass.
Yeah, this one caught me off guard a little. Because photosensitivity isn't something we always talk about during summer prep. But we really should.
Totally agree. PharMerica laid it out plain and simple. Certain medications can make the skin way more sensitive to sunlight. And we're not just talking rare prescriptions. We're talking everyday meds.
Yeah, diuretics, NSAIDs, some antibiotics, antihistamines, even certain antidepressants. These are meds that show up on almost every MAR in senior living.
So now imagine, you've got a resident who's feeling great, wants to sit outside for lunch, and then a few hours later, they've got a rash, maybe blisters, or they're complaining of burning skin, and nobody saw it coming.
And the kicker is, it might not even look like a sunburn. It might be itching, redness, swelling, or what looks like a heat rash. That makes it harder to identify, especially for new staff.
Exactly. And residents might not say, "Hey, the sun made me itchy." They might just feel uncomfortable and not know why. So, unless caregivers know to look for it, it slips right under the radar.
That's why this really needs to be part of your seasonal med review process. When the weather warms up, pull your pharmacy consultant in, look at those med lists, and flag anything that might increase sensitivity.
Honestly, this should be a standing agenda item in your interdisciplinary team meetings each spring. Let's look at who's photosensitive this season and adjust care plans accordingly.
And it's not just about limiting outdoor time. It's also about using the right protective measures. wide-brimmed hats, breathable long sleeves, sunscreen, especially broad-spectrum SPF 30 or higher.
And don't forget about windows. Residents sitting near bright sunrooms or riding in transport vans can still get hit with UV rays. That one surprised me.
Same here. And let's be real, staff are usually focused on getting folks from point A to point B safely. They're not always thinking, does this med make Mr. Johnson more likely to burn in the van ride over?
Exactly. That's why we need to empower CNAs and care staff with this info, because they're the ones helping residents outside, choosing clothing, deciding who goes where.
One thing I've seen work really well is a simple reference chart, like a laminated sheet at the nurse's station, listing common photosensitizing meds. Easy, visual, and right where decisions are being made.
I love that. And don't forget to loop in families. If they're planning outings, they need to know mom's new prescription means she'll need more than just a sun hat this time around.
And all this connects back to resident dignity, too. We want people to enjoy the outdoors. We're not saying stay inside all summer. We just have to support it smartly.
Exactly. Thoughtful planning, clear communication, and a little education go a long way. And photosensitivity is one of those risks we can actually get ahead of if we're paying attention.
All right, coming up next, we've talked about heat illness, but what about heat intolerance? It's different, and for some residents, it can make even a mild summer day feel unbearable. Stick with us.
Yeah, this is one I think flies under the radar. We hear a lot about dehydration and heat stroke, but heat intolerance is a completely different animal.
Exactly. And Far America's handout on this really helped break it down. It's not about heat exposure leading to illness. It's about certain residents just not being able to tolerate heat at all, even in small doses.
Right. And there are a few big culprits: multiple sclerosis, diabetes, Parkinson's, cardiovascular disease. All of these can impair how the body regulates temperature.
And that means for some residents, just stepping outside on an 80-degree day could trigger fatigue, dizziness, or confusion. Not because they've been out too long, but because their body can't handle it the way it used to.
And again, like with photosensitivity, the symptoms can be subtle. A resident might not say, "I'm too hot." They might just get unusually quiet, stop participating, or start showing signs of discomfort that seem out of character.
Exactly. I've seen residents who are doing just fine indoors, and then 15 minutes outside and suddenly they're lethargic. Or their speech slows down. Or they're having trouble walking.
And then we assume, oh, maybe they didn't eat enough or they're just tired. But really, it's heat intolerance, and we need to treat it like the medical issue it is.
And what I love about Far America's guidance is that they frame this as a care planning opportunity. This isn't about saying, well, we'll just keep them inside. It's about understanding the resident's baseline and building a plan around it.
Yeah, maybe that means limiting their time outdoors, or giving them cooling options like a personal fan, cooling towels, or even choosing shaded or air-conditioned spaces for outdoor visits.
And educating your team, especially CNAs, so they know which residents need to be monitored more closely on hot days. That might mean checking in more frequently or adjusting schedules so those residents get outdoor time earlier in the day.
Also, don't forget that medications can amplify this issue. Some meds mess with the body's ability to regulate heat or even reduce sweating, which makes cooling off even harder.
Exactly. So now you've got a resident with cardiovascular disease and they're on a beta blocker. And suddenly, their risk level goes way up. It's not one factor, it's the cumulative effect that matters.
One community I talked to recently added heat intolerance flags to their EMR system during the summer months. That way, anytime someone tried to schedule an outdoor activity or transport, it triggered a reminder to check heat sensitivity status.
That's smart, because at the end of the day, this isn't about being overcautious. It's about meeting each resident where they're at and helping them enjoy summer safely and comfortably.
And honestly, that brings us to something we're really excited to talk about: HealthCap's Summer Safety Webinar Series. It ties all of this together and then some. Let's get into it.
So after everything we just covered, sunblock, heat illness, photosensitivity, heat intolerance, it's a lot, right?
Yeah, and the truth is, these risks aren't seasonal for us in senior living, they're operational. They affect staffing, care plans, activities, and even how we use shared spaces, especially courtyard.
That's a big one. HealthCap sees a lot of summertime claims tied to courtyards, residents out longer than expected, missed reapplication of sunscreen, dehydration setting in during a group activity, even elopements.
Exactly. Courtyards are beautiful and inviting, but they're also where multiple risk factors stack up quickly: sun, heat, mobility, medications. That's why HealthCap launched the Summer Safety, Heat, Water, and Weather Risks webinar series. It's designed to help your team manage those very situations.
4 focused sessions, on demand so you can watch them on your schedule. Each one dives into a critical summer risk area: heat-related illness, waterborne threats like Legionella, emergency preparedness, and elopement prevention.
And they're packed with practical strategies, like how to supervise outdoor spaces more effectively, update hydration protocols, or plan courtyard activities without compromising resident safety.
Plus continuing ed credits for each session, 0.5 to 1.25 ANCC or NAB, depending on the topic.
And the companion resources are gold. We're talking hydration toolkits, Legionella protocols, emergency manuals, and guides specifically tailored to wandering and elopement.
Bottom line, this series helps you turn high-risk spaces like courtyards into well-managed, supportive environments that enhance quality of life without increasing liability.
You can access all 4 webinars right now at healthcapusa.com, or check out the link on Angie's blog.
Thanks for tuning into HealthCap Weekly Wrap.
Today was all about summer risk, but more importantly, it was about prevention. Because when we plan ahead, train our teams, and make smart decisions in spaces like courtyards, we protect what matters most: our residents' health and dignity.
For everything we talked about, and to access those webinars and resources, visit healthcapusa.com/Angie's blog.
Stay cool, stay sharp, and we'll see you next week.